All right, guys, hello, and welcome to another episode of MK's Loudmouth. Um, Brought to you by me, of course, Max Kidarakis, MKI TV. So, the topic for today that I wanted to talk about is something that I saw recently, and it really annoyed me. And I just want to add a little disclaimer. I stopped making, like 5 years ago, 7 years ago, I wrote articles about, professionalism in esports and whatever. And I do think that we've gone leaps and bounds and that we've grown a lot regarding professionalism. So I stopped doing videos like this, but this is something that really stood out at me, that it was really out there, the statement that I saw. So the topic is Counter Logic Gaming's Tarik, so a professional Counter-Strike Global Offensive player, and mainly his statement on Twitter regarding his lack of motivation, which stood out at me as very unprofessional, but also really kind of eats away at his integrity, so to say. So I also want to say I don't want to single out players professionally. I don't want to single out behavior like this, frequently. I don't want to, take examples of players, but at the same time, I think it's very important to give specific examples where we need to improve as an entire community on a professional level. So I will start making videos like this where I do see that, that we're not being as professional as we should be. And I'll start giving examples of specific players and what they do, or not only players, but organizations or management, and with an actual, solution with what they could do better. Because we can criticize all we want, but at the end of the day, we have to find solutions to the problems that we do have. So what I really wanted to talk about here is his lack of motivation, his tweet that we saw. With mainstream media, so for instance, Turner and E-League getting involved with esports, it's inevitable that new viewers and investors, that come into the mainstream, that come from the mainstream, market will draw comparisons between traditional sports and esports. And we often, think that, okay, we don't need to make these comparisons necessarily. We're building our own community. That's true. But others will draw the comparisons between the two. I mean, it's going to happen whether you like it or not, where, they start seeing esports on TV, right? So what blew it over for me was, the tweet that we saw from Tarik, who I'll remind you guys is a professional Counter-Strike player, and I'll put it up on the screen here and read it out. But it's his tweet is, getting a lot of criticism on my performance lately, but I'd like to know how motivated you would be to compete because of a contract. Fuck off. So, of course, we can go into, the swearing and the language. I mean, whatever, that's fine. It's his personal Twitter, and I'm not going to, start knocking on him for language. That's, of course, he shouldn't swear on, a public medium, but it's not that big of a deal. The bigger deal is, the statement itself and what it means. So just to give you guys a little background information, Tarik is a professional Counter-Strike player. He plays for the team Counter Logic Gaming, CLG for short, and he started playing for them in 2015 when his team got picked up by his team Mousepass got picked up by CLG, and this team ended up being one of the teams invited to E-League Season 1. In general, CLG can easily be considered one of the best North American teams. And a few days ago is when this tweet was tweeted out. A few days ago he tweeted out that he'd be stepping down from CLG and streaming until the end of his contract. This is the tweet in question: is stepping down from the CLG CS roster and returning home to stream until the end of my contract. I will come back stronger than ever in 2017. So he later went on to add that he's not looking to be bought out and is looking to start fresh in 2017. So the problems with his original tweet, so with the tweet about, lack of motivation and how motivated others would be, is how can we trust him as a player, or how can an organization trust him as a player if he signs contracts and then just doesn't fulfill them? So let's get the obvious out of the way. So obviously CLG should refrain from fielding a player who does not want to play for them. Obvious. I mean, it's a no-brainer. We can draw this comparison in other sports as well, that teams don't necessarily hold on to players, even if they're contractually obligated to play. They still don't force them to play because it doesn't work in anyone's interest because of the motivation issues. And then the other side of the story is that contract obligations need to be understood and they need to be fulfilled. So we're saying, where CLG can improve, but also where Tarik can improve, right? And obviously there's a small conflict between the two things that I just mentioned, right? However, the problem is that Tarik stated that he stated the fact that he's contracted to play for CLG until 2017. He knows this. So I don't know what really went on behind the scenes here, but CLG is fully within, their right to expect that Tarik will, fulfill the contract to the best of his ability and that he'll play to the end of 2017. So that's just to get like the kind of background situation out of the way. Now, what really annoys me is the tweet itself that he's unmotivated. So the first thing I want to talk about here is Tarik signed the contract. So he has obligations to fulfill. At the end of the day, it's his job. I mean, when you start any work, you sign a contract with your employer for a specific amount of time, hopefully, it's that kind of contract where you will get reimbursed this much money a month or a year, whatever it might be. So it's a shitty situation. I'm not denying it because he lost motivation. He doesn't want to play for CLG anymore. But at the same time, he signed the contract. He knows exactly what he was getting into at the very beginning of it. And for me to say something else would be treating him like an idiot. I could say, yeah, he didn't know what he was doing. He, whatever. Well, that doesn't bode well for him either. So I'm giving him, this benefit of the doubt, treating him, as a smart individual that he knew what he was getting into. So while it's a shitty situation, and I'm not denying it, what can he do? He has to grit his teeth and work his way through it. That's what you do when you're not liking your current situation in your job. And it's unfortunate, but no one forced him in that position. And that's why it's, for me, it's weird that he's pretty much expecting this huge level of, empathy where, it's something he put himself into. And this brings me to my second point, this empathy part, which is if you take into consideration the entire situation, so what his job exactly is and the contract that he signed, he's still a goddamn lucky guy. I mean, he's a professional gamer. It's not like any other job, and specifically not even in esports. I mean, he's a professional gamer. So, how many people watching this video, probably half, if not more, confirmed statistic, by the way. Obviously, I'm kidding, but probably half or more of the people watching this video would jump at the chance to play Counter-Strike Global Offensive professionally. So, I feel bad for you, bro, but sorry, not sorry, because your job is awesome and you're living this dream. And the fact that you signed the contract and, because you started making money off of it and now, you'd like to make more, or maybe you just feel like you're not getting paid enough for your job. I mean, you're getting paid a lot of money probably, and you're not motivated to, play the game that we all would love to play professionally. So it's this weird situation for me, which really annoys me. And this is where this comparison to professional sports comes in, whereas CLG is an E-League team. Tarik is an E-League player, and Turner is the team running E-League. So let's compare it to the NBA, where Turner does NBA-related activities as well. So let's compare the two. And if a professional athlete in the NBA would state what Tarik just said, which is, that I'd like to know how motivated you would be to compete because of a contract. There are tons of players that are competing in the NBA only because of their contract, or going to practices only because they have to. And if they would say this out loud publicly, they'd be absolutely torn apart, and for good reason. That's the correct response. You're getting paid for something which all of us dreamed of doing professionally on some level, and you're realizing that you're getting the chance to do it. So it's just this weird situation, and the result of what he said can have other ramifications, because what organization will want to sign someone who might decide halfway that his contract, in his contract, that he just loses motivation and doesn't want to play? Even worse, he doesn't want to be bought out, which is also something he stated. So the organization doesn't have really any type of way to gain back on its investment. They're paying him a salary, or they're moving him into a team house, sending him to events across the world. I mean, we're talking about huge amounts of money invested into him, and there's no return of that investment, especially when he just decides that he's not motivated anymore. To make matters worse, he's vocal about it. So he's saying that he's forced to play because of his contract or whatever. And the correct behavior in the situation would be, just to close your mouth and play a little, just finish out your contract, because, what other organizations that potentially would want to pick him up now have to take into consideration, all right, so even if we do trust him that, we do want Tarik on our team because he's a fantastic Counter-Strike player, what if something happens that he doesn't like? He might be vocal about it. And even if there's a contract, that doesn't really matter all that much, right? So it might cause organizations to think twice before signing Tarik again. Now, I always believe that Tarik is a very smart guy, so I'm hoping and I believe in the fact that this might have been an emotional, salty post after all the criticism that he got, because granted, he got a ton of criticism. A lot of it was unwarranted. However, the criticism he might get for this post might just make it worse, right? So I'm hoping he goes back on his statement on Twitter. I'm hoping he realizes that it's probably not the best thing to say publicly, even if you do think it. But without, if he doesn't go back on his post without that, I don't know, I'm very disappointed in my entire belief of professionalism in the community. And of what is no doubt one of the more professional members of the Counter-Strike community, because Tarik, other than just being a gamer, has other things that he gave the community that he's very well known for. So it'd be a big shame if this is commonplace and this ends up being all right. That you can just say that, yeah, I lost motivation in my absolute dream job, and that's that. So I'm just going to not be motivated. I mean, yeah, it's a grind. I mean, that's all that it comes down to, and it just really annoys me that things like this, can be written publicly and there are no ramifications for it as of yet. So that's just my little annoyed video blog of that situation. Hopefully, we do see. Maybe Tarik go back on that post, or some type of clarification come out from him what he exactly meant. I'm just hoping that it's this emotional post that was written by Tarik where he got a ton of criticism, he couldn't handle it, and he decided to vent. Hopefully that's the case. Hopefully he doesn't think that's all right what he said, and I do hope that at the end of the day I do wish him the best of luck, of course. But I will be, I think, singling out more players of behavior, because I mean, I'm sorry but not sorry that you lost motivation to play, in an absolute dream scenario for yourself. So that's that, guys. If you do enjoy my videos, please like and subscribe. I do release these every once in a while, so you can find the subscriber link below, of course, the video, or I will also link it, so you will be able to find it there. Like and subscribe. Later.